Happy Pride Month, y'all. I have a question for the parents, the grandparents, aunties, uncles, mentors, really anyone who is an adult who has kids, teens, young adults in your life. How are you talking about Pride Month and the LGBTQIA plus community with your kids, teens, young adults in a developmentally appropriate way? And the reason why I'm asking, you can see the table of diversity behind me. Yesterday I announced that there's going to be a kids version of the table of diversity, because one of the things that I often find is that adults have a really hard time talking about identity in a way that is productive, that is proactive, that is intentional with the kids, teens, and young adults in their lives. I know when it comes to my kids, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, how I talk to my 2-year-old about identity is very different than how I talk to my 4-year-old about identity, and how I would talk to a 12-year-old or a 20-year-old about identity. And as someone who, for the past 10 years, has been facilitating diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations, activities, and strategies within organizations using this tool, the table of diversity, I know what it looks like when these conversations have been done in a very intentional, proactive, and productive way. I know what that looks like when adults who have become accustomed to these types of conversations on a regular basis in their upbringing, what that means when they get into the workplace. But I also know what it looks like when these conversations are not being had for young people as they're growing up in this world that is increasingly diverse. So as I'm developing this kids version of the table of diversity, there's going to be a companion guide. And the companion guide will really just lay out in developmentally appropriate ways how to have these conversations in ways that are productive, because I think that's the key here, is to have them in ways that are productive, not reactive to what may happen in the world, but to prepare our kids for the world that they're entering into. And so I want to hear from parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, really anyone who has kids, teens, and young adults in your life where you want to have these conversations, you want to do so in a way that's productive. You want a tool such as the table of diversity and a kidified version to assist you in having these conversations in a way that is simple. Just like the table of diversity allows adults to have conversations in a way that is simple, that it's approachable, it's engaging, but it also allows for nuance. It allows for growth. It allows for an opportunity to not get stuck in the conversation, but continue to build. And then there's, some of the other things that come up, like building those critical thinking skills, building empathy. The table of diversity, the kids version, will do all of that. And I know that that's the case because, the table of diversity, the workplace version, does all of that. And the workplace version, as it stands today, is a toolkit that organizations and teams use to really have these conversations in a way that, again, is productive. So I'm replicating this process that I've spent 10 years really, getting to a solid place and perfecting. I'm replicating that in a kids version. But I need your feedback, because as I'm having these conversations regularly with my kids, they're not 12, they're not 20, they're not of that age group yet. So how are you having these conversations? If you have a 2-year-old, if you have 7-year-old, 20-year-old, all age groups, this tool will be appropriate for. So 2 questions: how are you having these conversations? And then what are the barriers that you're facing as you're having these conversations about identity? And I just want you to use pride as an example because it will cover all aspects of identity. Some of the ones that you see here won't be appropriate for the kids version because it talks about things like specifically in the workplace. So for example, there's an element over here that talks about your position within the workplace. Well, my 2-year-old, she's the boss, don't get me wrong, but she doesn't have an official role within an organization. So that wouldn't make sense on the kids version. But it would cover aspects of identity that are important to young adults, to kids, to teens, as they grow into this version. So let me know, what are the things that you're talking about now? What's working, what's not working? But also, what would you like to see in a tool that could help you have these conversations and be even more productive in having these conversations with the teens and kids and young adults in your life? Let me know in the comments.